we don't take advantage of these resources around us quite often enough. And that was something when I was, an SDR prospecting myself, we got a little Slack channel set up where we would send in, like, the CEO, the CRO would send in, like, hey guys, I opened this one. I actually read through this one. I responded to this one. This is what worked for me. Yeah. Just as an example. So that's, great point. Let's talk more about then once you've got that engagement. So you're now having those live conversations with that prospect. How do you incorporate transparency here?
Well, can I start with a relatable B2C example? Because I think like that's a place to start, because everybody knows this, and it's everybody's favorite retailer in the world, IKEA, right? Like, it's a nightmare, right? Like IKEA, you walk in and you're in for it when they have to hand you a map, right? Like, this is going to suck. And then you walk through the labyrinth of hallways, you can't find anything. You finally find what you're looking for. There's no salesperson around to help you. You have to like write the code or take a picture of it with your phone of where you're going to find it in the warehouse downstairs. You go to the warehouse, you find the 100-pound boxes, you pull them somehow miraculously off onto a cart that doesn't have brakes. You then roll it into the parking lot where you have to back your car in and jam it into the back of your car, Tetris style. You drive home with a souvenir injury or two, thinking you just left the hell on earth back at the store. But now you get to open the box. There's 150 parts. There's no words on the work instructions other than like Svarta or some weird Scandinavian name. You put it together and you're like, you know what? This looks pretty good. We should have bought the end tables. Let's go back, right? And like, it seems so stupid. However, IKEA is one of those examples that I think the B2B world has an opportunity to learn from, which is embrace what you give up to be great at your core. IKEA says, hey, you're going to find it, you're going to pick it, you're going to jam it, you're going to assemble it. But we do that so we can give you modern Scandinavian design furniture you didn't pay much for. And if you walk into an IKEA right now and say, hey, listen, I need a salesperson that's going to design my living room and feng shui it, and then they're going to deliver and set it all up for me, they'd be like, cool, go down the street, room and board, crate and barrel, mate, like they'll do it. Yeah. I think that's our opportunity. I mean, like, and there's so many examples like at Costco, at Southwest Airlines, Progressive Insurance. Like there's tons of these organizations that are saying, hey, listen, we're not all things to all people. This is what we're good at. This is what we're not. Qualify in, qualify out, attract people to you and your company that are pre-qualified. Huge opportunity there. When we take that to the B2B world, I'll tell you the story of the first time this happened, and the first time I tried it, because I was like, I had a theory. I tried it and it was crazy how magic happened. But it was an apparel retailer up in the Northeast, up in New York. I'll try to shorten the story here as much as I can for you. What happened was I was in New York. I had a whole afternoon canceled. My VP of sales back in Chicago texted me saying, hey, we just got an inbound lead from this incredible apparel company up in New York. And I was like, New York? Cool. Tell me about it. And they're like, well, they're going to issue an RFP, and then we're going to fly to New York and do this whole dog and pony. And I was like, hey, there's a 1 in 100 shot here. So don't put any pressure on the rep, but could you have the rep reach back out to their head of e-commerce and ask them if they might want to grab coffee? Because I'm in New York, I've got a few hours open. Like, that would be cool to kind of kick off the relationship that way. Rep does. The guy says yes. Like, what are the odds? I don't know what the expectations were, but when I got there, I checked in, we went to his office. As we walked into his office, the guy hands me the HDMI cable from his monitor. And he's like, here, this is for, you can plug into your laptop for your presentation. And I was just like,
coffee?
We were having coffee. Like, what happened? As I'm like, the wheels are turning and I'm going crazy, I look to my right and people are wheeling chairs into the room. And it wasn't just people, it was like 7 of them. So now we're in his office, hot Manhattan office. There's 9 of us, like elbow to elbow. And this guy goes right after me, like New York style, in the best way possible. Like, there was no small talk. It was just like, Todd, listen, we're talking to you. We're talking to your competitor. How are you better? And like, I could feel all the eyes in the room on me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And so here's what transparency sounded like in this moment. Our competitor had just released an add-on that we didn't have. So I decided to start with it and say, hey, listen, before we get too deep into it, get a lot of people here. They're putting together an RFP. We're going to be flying people around, but can I share how they're better than us? They actually just released an add-on that we don't have. We weren't anticipating. It's not even on our roadmap. And if that's going to be an important consideration, can we vet that now and maybe save each other a ton of time? Immediately, you could feel the whole vibe in the room kind of calm down. They started asking me about it. They're like, we hadn't even heard about it. What is it? And I was like, well, here's what it is. Here's what it does. They're beta customers in the apparel space like you. And we went back and forth. They kept coming back. Like, what would you do if we needed that? I'm like, I don't know. They just came out with it yesterday. Like, we haven't even talked about it, right? Within about 10 minutes, they came back and they're like, listen, not a consideration for us. It sounds interesting, but we wouldn't even get to that for probably a couple of years. I'm like, all right, cool. Remember, they're first customers in the apparel space. Like, like make sure. They're like, yeah, we're cool. And then I talked about our kind of 4.2 to 4.5. Here's the magic. About 15 minutes later, the head of e-commerce kicks the other 7 people out of his office, saying, hey, have you all heard enough? And they're like, yeah, we're cool. I'm like, all right, good. They all leave. He literally pulled a folder off his credenza, opened it up. It was his budget. And he points at the 5th line down and he's like, can you hit it? Now, I'd never actually seen a buyer's budget, especially in the first 25 minutes of a meeting. And we end up having this dialogue. 10 days later, after I'd left, he called me personally to let me know that they're not doing the RFP. There's going to be no flying around. They're ready to get to it. And they've chosen us. And so we ended up taking what would have been a 6-month sales cycle and boiled it down to about 6 weeks after a few weeks of T's and C's and contracts and everything. But that's the point. Help the buyer predict. That's how this works, right? Transparency. This is what we're great at. This is what we're not. We don't do those ancillary things. We're awesome at this. And if you're cool with that, you're going to love us. And if you're not, you're going to love them. And that's where the magic happened. And we became Chicago's fastest growing tech company.